How much do you think that believing in a certain afterlife changes how you live?
It kind of gives me a sort of peace because within my religion there is like an afterlife, and so we believe in like resurrection and stuff like that. And
Are Mormons? Do all Mormons just get resurrected with other Mormons? That's an idea, right?
I've never heard of that, but
Okay.
I mean, maybe. I don't think so. I think everybody does personally, but
Okay.
we all have like a spiritual body. Like our bodies will be perfect after we die, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that kind of gives me some peace that like we're gonna be like perfect.
Yeah, listen, man, that sounds very comforting. So you've learned that from your religion. That sounds, dude, that sounds, I think you want to think about Mormonism, my friend, because that sounds, and you too, you got Buddhism, Catholic, it's Mormonism. That's the way you want to go. Yeah, seriously, that's pretty cool. Yeah, bro.
So what do you guys think about the concept of a near-death experience? I know that most of you are adhere to religion, and so if you were to die, someone would be there for you in some kind of afterlife. But whenever it's like 10 minutes before you're fully dead, there's these chemicals that get released in your brain that make you replay all very like important parts of your life.
That's an idea. We don't know, because we do know that people who have near-death... do you know anyone who's had a near-death experience? Any of you? Anyone? Your dad, when he was at the very end of his final hours, did he talk about anything happening? Did he talk about people that he saw, certain people? Because that's pretty common.
So he couldn't talk, but he kept looking into like the corners of like the room.
Oh, come on, seriously?
And that's just kind of, I don't know, my mom's a nurse, and she just like reads a bunch of books about the whole like dying process, and a lot of what that's shown is like, you can sometimes see like your past like relatives. So I kind of think that he was like seeing his past like relatives, his mom and dad and all of that. But it was definitely weird to see him look around the room like he's looking at something that's not there.
Yeah, quite pretty common actually.
My mother had a near-death experience. She had a heart attack and her heart stopped, and so she's alive now. She's had her heart restarted, but while that was happening, she described what death was like, and she told me that it was nothing. That she during that time there was just nothing.
So her experience was it was nothing at all.
Yeah, nothing at all.
Yeah, that's interesting. Lots of different experiences, man.
Like when I was younger, I want to say it was kindergarten. I was on vacation with my family and I didn't know how to swim at the time and I drowned. And everything kind of just went dark for me. And then all of a sudden I haven't really thought about this much, but I find comfort in this in a weird way. There's just a bunch of lights and then a voice kind of pushing me back, if that makes sense. It was kind of just it was a really comforting voice. And just thinking about death and with everything, I kind of always think back to that moment because I hear people say that they've died and that they've heard nothing and they come back. But in my own personal experience, it just felt like there was something after the fact, and that thing even pushed me back to life. Kind of makes me feel comfort in knowing, personally at least, that there's something on the other side and there's something kind of comforting us and kind of guiding us through life.
So you're living with that now?
Yeah. I kind of it's in the back of my mind sometimes, and it kind of reinforces this belief that I have that everyone kind of has a clock above their head per se.
Yeah.
And if it's your time, and it's kind of morbid, but if it's your time,
No, wait, hang on. What makes it morbid? What do you mean?
I don't know. I just think that the idea of death in and of itself is kind of morbid.
Wait, it doesn't sound like it though, because it sounds like you just gave us a really cool vision of death. So I don't know what's morbid about that.
I don't know, just like the thought of it is kind of morbid in my opinion, but at the same time, it's not.
Was the voice that you heard when you were, like, when your eyes were closed and I guess you were dead, coming back to life, was that different than the voices around you, or was there anyone like it's completely factored out that it wasn't anyone around you and it was like actually like a voice that you were hearing?
It's actually funny that you just said that because I was telling him the story earlier and he was asking me if it was my dad because when I woke up, my dad was right in front of me and I was telling him that it was kind of like a voice that I've never heard before. And like, I know like what the people around me sound like and like it wasn't any of them. And that's kind of the only way I could explain it. And I've been thinking about, like, the voice has kind of just like been with me ever since. Like, if that makes sense. But I know that it wasn't anyone that I know. But like, it was kind of just, you know, when you hear a voice and you're kind of like, okay, like that's a really comforting voice. Like, I feel safe. It was kind of like that.
Hang on, Peter's got a question for you, bro.
Yeah, I would ask, first of all, are you religious? And second of all, how has that experience kind of, questioned spirituality or anything like that?
I would say for the religion, it's kind of like the most basic form for me. Like, I'm not super religious, but I'm not like not religious. But it has made me a more spiritual person. Like, it's kind of made me believe in like the afterlife and like, I guess, ghosts and like all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of made me walk through life thinking that either like my family that's passed or like even like pets that I've had that have passed, like that they're always around and watching over us, and that like it's just there's, I guess, spirits all around just like making sure we're safe and making sure we're supposed to be. And like,
Hey, when you tell this to people, do they say, wow, that's interesting? Are they more inclined to say, wow, that's really interesting, let me think more about that? Or are they more inclined to say, oh, that's really morbid, don't talk about that?
in all honesty, I don't really talk about it a lot just because, like, I don't know, sometimes I was just like, am I insane? But the people who I do tell, it's kind of a mixture of both. Some of them are really interested, but then some of them think that, like, it is really morbid, and like they just think I'm like just making stuff up. You know,
I have this idea that maybe a lot of the religions, you know, a lot of the religious orientations that people have are built upon people's lived experiences. And all throughout history, people die and they come back. I mean, you know, they stop breathing for periods of time and then they come back. And because that's always happening. And then people tell the stories. And I wonder if that's how we create these religious theologies, right, about this. You know, it happens more these days than ever before because we've gotten really good at bringing people back to life after their heart stops and their breathing stops. And we're just getting better. It's all this the medicine that's oriented toward this. And so there are more and more people who have these experiences and are able to talk about them. Like, you can keep a body going for hours. If you put a body on ice and it stops breathing, they can just keep for a long, long time. And then, you know, they can run blood infusions with like high doses of oxygen, and they keep it going for hours, man. Really a long time. It's pretty profound.
Yeah, so about near-death experience. So I had cancer when I was like 16. So like death never really came up, or at least on the level where I was like, oh, I really need to like consider this. But I definitely thought about it on my own. It was really interesting because I definitely spent a lot of time thinking about it, and then I hit a point where it was like done, like boxed away. And I really didn't think about it, and I don't think about it since then. And so it's almost like I've kind of had that like I don't know, that like discussion with myself and it's over because I had that experience of really needing to think like this could happen, am I okay with that? Obviously now I don't have to worry about it, but I just think that kind of near-death experience, what like sticks with me the most is kids like less than half my age, scars all over their heads, and yet, I just really like to think about what does that conversation look like? How do you answer that question for someone like that?
So let me ask you a question, right? So you had, what cancer do you have?
So it was lymphoma. I never let them tell me what stage it was, which considering they kind of obliged with that, I assume it wasn't major. It's about 6 months of treatment.
Uh-huh. But you had to confront your like the end, really. I mean, you're thinking cancer is cancer.
I felt like it would be responsible to at least, think about as much as I can.
So how much do you think about death today then? Like, how did that shift you?
Not a lot. Most of it is now kind of just channeled into how I can help other people maybe not think about it as much who are going through similar things or whatever.
So I know some people have some very strong thoughts and opinions on this, but do any of you guys have any opinions on like paranormal or like ghosts in relation?
Yeah, how do you think about ghosts? How does Six think about ghosts?
I don't think we do. We just basically we think that when you die, you're like, say, because we think God is everywhere, and God isn't like a person in the sky. He's just like, he's in you, he's in me, he's everywhere. Mm-hmm. So we think that, I was watching one of the last class you did about Sikhism because that was my friend. Yeah. So you said that's how I think about it too. It's like a pool. God is like a pool of water, and we're just like water drops going back into that ocean.
Mm. What are your thoughts about Shintoism, which from my understanding in context is a religion in East Asia, what I'm thinking about primarily Japan, where those who are deceased essentially come back and possess inanimate objects. To me, it kind of reminds me of when people do cremation and save ashes. I think, this concept might comfort people because, in essence, they're still here with you. And, if you, from my understanding, they go to gates and they might feel the essence of those who are close to them.
Do you have something for your dad? Do you have a little, in your house, an altar or some place that's kind of set up with his things that you can go to and feel like your dad is right there? Or is your dad kind of everywhere?
Kind of. We got a shadow box, from his work that he made, and then he has an office in our house. So I definitely feel him more when I'm there. When I'm here at Penn State, I don't feel him at all. He's been here a few times, but I don't know, that wasn't our place. So definitely I'd say more of my house and his office and in his him and my mom's bedroom, or I'd say at the mausoleum that he's at, because we didn't want him to be buried underground, because it's almost like you can feel closer to him if he's if you guys don't know what a mausoleum is, it's the big buildings, then you put the casket in the wall type thing. So I don't know, I guess that makes me feel a lot closer to him because he's right there.
So then it's kind of like an energy thing. In a way, you can feel his energy there. Do you feel like his energy is there, at his actual energy?
Yes.
When you're at the mausoleum, you feel like he's right there with you?
Yes.
I have an interesting Shintoism, by the way. I have an interesting story. It was a Shinto Buddhist shrine. I was in Japan and Tokyo, and then I just went to this shrine south of Tokyo. I took a train for about an hour, and I wanted to go to this one particular shrine. And in order to get there, I had to climb these stairs. It was probably 3 times as long as these stairs and really steep. And I finally got up there to the top, and it was wide open, and there were statues of the Buddha, but it was both Shinto and Buddhist, right? So there were statues. I went to this one particular area. There were probably 80 different statues of the Buddha. And as soon as I walked over there, I just felt this energy, and I went, oh man, whoa, I want to meditate. But But I didn't. I was with somebody else and I couldn't. So I left, and the next day I woke up and I said, I got to go back there. And I went back to the same spot, and I sat down on a little like cushion. And the moment I sat down, the very moment, my body just got taken over by, I mean, maybe it's the energy in my own head, because it wasn't a conscious thought that I got to go back here, but it felt like somehow the energy was there, and I immediately just started doing this wild, like, dance. Like, I couldn't control my body. My body just went and was doing this, like, qigong thing, and I couldn't stop it. I didn't want to stop it, but it just grabbed. It's like all the Buddhas together, all the energy just said, like, we got you, man. You're back. We got you. And then I just was in it. So, and I always felt like that was just the energy of all of there were a lot of people's ashes and different things. I just thought there was something about that spot that it just called me, so anyway.